Should we continue globalization? Well, everyone knows what globalization is these days, but not much knows that globalization is not all good. Globalization tends to make our world into one big community. But is it necessary? And at what cost? I'll explain to you why globalization does more harm than good. Let's start with education, which is one of the most important aspects in life. Globalization through internet technology has created an unequal amount of knowledge among students and teachers. On one side, many students and teachers get the benefit of internet access to improve their knowledge, but on the other side, many people do not. Because according to Compass News based on Digital 2022 April Global Stature Report, there are approximately 40% of Earth's population that still doesn't have internet access. This is a huge gap. Even though the gap of education has been a classic issue, globalization made it way worse. Now, let's talk about economy. Stated on one of BBC's article, globalization operates mostly in the interest of the developed countries, which continue to dominate world trade at the expense of developing countries. It creates an exploitation of underdeveloped countries, and it causes a dependency to developed countries. According to National Geographic's article, some studies also suggest that globalization may contribute to inequality income between the more educated and less educated people. Many studies also suggest that financial globalization increases volatility and leads to economic instability. Globalization also has a serious negative impact. The use of digital technology promoted by globalization, especially on social media, has changed people's behavior. This change of behavior may lead to psychological and physical issues. People are stuck with their social media apps and tend to forget about their surroundings. Obsession to social media may also cause some psychological issues such as distraction, narcissism, expectation of instant gratification, depression, and often lead to social conflicts. What does globalization do to the environment? Actually, this is probably one of the worst, since globalization has created some serious damages on Earth's environment. According to the World Economic Forum, the demand of global trade has triggered deforestation and has changed dramatically in recent years. Deforestation can cause habitat loss, poisonous air, and climate change. Globalization also triggers a decrease in biodiversity. According to the World Wildlife Fund's Living Planet report in 2020, the population size of all organisms has decreased 68% since 1970, which mostly happened in some developing regions that is important to global trade. Globalization also contributes to an increase of emission. According to International Transport Forum report, 70% of freight from global trades is transported by ship, which contributes in oil leaks that can cause lots of harm to the marine environment. In conclusion, we acknowledge that globalization has contributed many good things to this world, but it mostly benefits rich people or powerful countries, while it just worsens the situation for poor people or developing countries. Globalization also has increased the gap between the rich and the poor, seized subcultures and traditions, and even made the environment worse. We may get the benefit of globalization, but be aware, the risks could be catastrophic.
listening to all of the arguments presented today, and as a firm supporter of globalization, we believe that globalization has been a greater asset to the world. In this rebuttal, I'm going to highlight my team's strongest points and examine the opposing team's essays. In education, a point I would like to raise is that education is something we cannot disregard. It has without a doubt helped everybody at some point in life. A common argument I used to hear is that globalization causes unequal education. I would like to completely disagree with the statement. Several variables cause unequal education, such as gender, geographic location of residence, and etc. It's not only because of globalization. As a matter of fact, globalization gives easier access to information for students. During this COVID-19 pandemic, thanks to globalization, we students can still study. With access to the internet, we can do online school. We can gain knowledge from different sites and learn about foreign cultures easily. In culture, an argument brought up by the opposing team is that globalization makes people forget about their own culture. However, the fact is that nobody can get rid of originality. Something all of you must understand is that sometimes culture doesn't always exist, meaning food, drinks, products, and etc. It can sometimes exist in other things like the flag, the government, and our history. There are other things that represent our culture. Economic growth has been expanding more and more ever since globalization has been introduced. It has benefited both the rich and poor countries. Though many believe that globalization has caused a bigger gap between the rich and poor, but in reality, developed countries have been helping the developing countries by creating more job opportunities for them that cause higher average incomes, and it also makes the gap between the rich and poor smaller. So it is fact that globalization has been a huge major factor in reducing poverty. In information and technology, a commonly brought up argument is that technology is making everyone lazy. But the problem with this is that sometimes technology is a must-need for us to function. I want you to think of it this way. Think about a future where technology doesn't exist. Online classes don't exist. Entertainment doesn't exist. Communication is basically non-existent. We as humans cannot live without technology. Technology has helped us to become more connected. And finally, in the environment, it has been stated that globalization has caused many animals to go in danger. However, a problem with this argument is that globalization is not what caused animals to go in danger. It is us humans. And as all of you know, that itself is not part of globalization, which means that it is completely irrelevant. Another point I would like to bring up is that because globalization kills animals, it does not necessarily mean that it is bad. Sometimes it may even be a good thing, as sadistic as that sounds. Take for example mosquitoes, the animal nobody likes. Climate change has been killing mosquitoes for over a decade now, and the main cause of climate change is globalization. So in a way, if we stop globalization, we also stop climate change, and the mosquitoes will reproduce rapidly, and in turn it will kill more people than ever. So in a twisted way, if you stop globalization and climate change, you're basically letting mosquitoes commit genocide. Globalization is not a phenomenon, but an evolving set of consequences, some good, some bad, and some unintended. It is a new reality. Globalization can be a great opportunity for both the rich and poor. It has already cultivated to something beautiful. We can cannot stop innovation.
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a world without globalization. You walk to school instead of driving just because your family can't afford a car. Since cars are made in other countries, you've arrived at school and you went to class. An hour has passed and it's time to eat breakfast. You open your lunchbox and see your country's food. Don't even dream of eating pizza or pasta. And 5 hours have passed and school is over and you went home walking. You have an essay to complete and you have to do it by hand, since computers are very expensive because it's important. But thankfully, we don't live in this kind of world thanks to globalization. Globalization provides technology, transportation, jobs, connections, and many more. And that's why, as the first speaker of the negative side, I strongly believe that globalization does more good than harm in the area of education, and this is why. Globalization enhances the student's ability to acquire and utilize knowledge. It also enhances the ability to access, apply knowledge, and think independently. Globalization gives us more topics to discover. Culture and history are examples. Globalization, also education, interconnects methods of teaching from worldwide system to encourage for the international development of environmental sustainability. With globalization, some of the challenges for knowledge, education, and learning will provide today's learners the ability to be more familiar and comfortable with abstract concepts and uncertain situations. We can have school despite of the pandemic. With technology, globalization has given us the ability to have synchronous learning from home and some offline. Now, because of technology, we have ebooks or online books. Some ebooks are even free, and we are also studying digitally, and globalization makes online learning possible. By studying digitally, we're using less paper. The study says a typical school uses an average of 2,000 sheets per day, meaning that during a full school year of 160 days, a school will use over 320,000 sheets of paper per year. With all the facts and reasons I have stated, I firmly believe that globalization does more good than harm in the area of education. I now rest my case and I'm ready for cross-examination.